There was a time when I didn't recognize myself, not just in the mirror, but inside. I was tired, I was numb, I was heavier. I didn't know how to get my life back, or even if I could get my life back, but I did. I lost 20 kilograms, I rebuilt my energy, and more than anything, I found me again. This is how it happened. I didn't wake up one day and say, all right, let's lose 20 kilograms. It was more like, I couldn't wake up at all. I was working, I was functioning, I was smiling even. But inside, I felt like I was kind of disappearing. One of the hardest moments during this period was that I knew that I had to wake up every single morning and go to work. I knew that I had a job to do. I knew that I had to face the world one more time. I had to be outside there when nobody will understand how I feel. I actually didn't even understand how I feel myself, so how could others understand what I was feeling at the moment? Just the thought of me spending a whole day of work, that's like 9 hours for me, was a nightmare. It was like 9 full hours of unhappiness every single day. Another hard moment that I was facing during this moment was like an identity crisis. I didn't know what to do about my music. I didn't know if I was ready to switch. I didn't know if I was ready to start doing something else. But at the same time, I was like, if I'm leaving music, what's gonna happen to all those people who've been following me? What's gonna happen to all the people who love me in music? Even if at the moment I wasn't feeling like doing music anymore, I wanted to do something different. But at the same time, how am I supposed to know what is the something different that I want to do if I don't even know who I am, if I don't even have an identity at the moment? I was very lost. I didn't know who I was anymore. I was spending all my time sitting at home when I'm not at work, binging, watching Netflix, eating some chips and all the things that I'm not supposed to do, and just stay in my own bubble. So that period was a period of a lot of darkness, so much so that I couldn't even know where to put myself, where to structure myself, what type of different angle of life I should go for besides music. And if I had to quit music, what should I tell people? And if I'm quitting music, what am I going towards? What am I starting to do after that? So I was having all of that, the identity crisis, that it didn't alleviate the problem. It made it even harder for me to go outside. It made it harder for me to meet people outside there and just be happy, be myself, be a person. I was great at my job. I've always been. But besides that, I was also great with music. I was also great with sports and all of that from the very start, from the childhood. I've always been great with those things. So between all of that, I was not sure, like, what do I want to do? And what do I want to do? I can't make a decision as long as I don't know who I am or what I'm aspiring to be. So to solve one problem, you had to face the other one and solve it at first before going to choose what you want to choose, what you want to do in life. And most of all, I just didn't want to disappoint anyone. But I forgot that by trying not to disappoint everybody outside there, I was mostly disappointing myself. I was letting myself down. At this point, my day-to-day life looked more like waking up in the morning, trying to get some coffee so that I can have enough energy to face the world, get ready for work, be the best actor I could be outside there by putting on a smile that I didn't really feel. No extra hours at work. After work, come back home, eat, sit down in front of the TV, watching TV and snacking at the same time. So just that was it. And then go to bed. I didn't want to see anyone. I didn't want to talk to anyone. I didn't even like the idea of someone asking me, how are you feeling really? If you ask me to go out during that period, it was a huge waste of time because I was not going anywhere. And so eventually, people stopped asking. And to be honest with y'all, that was a big relief for me because I was tired of saying no every single time. What did depression feel like for me? Depression is like that type of thing that people talk about a lot without actually knowing what it is exactly. Only the people who have actually lived with depression can say what it feels like for them, because sincerely this is a matter that it's talked about a lot, but I feel like a lot of people say that they are in depression just because they're having a bad day or just because they have a little stress here and there, but they're not really in a state of depression, of a clinical depression. So for me personally, depression was like being in a hole from which you have a hard time digging yourself out. It's actually the opposite. The more you try to dig yourself out, the deeper you go. So it was just feeling like every single day I'm going deeper and deeper in my hole, in my dark hole filled with rain, and on top of the rain there is a huge dark sky that keeps pouring that rain on top of you. So you literally don't have anywhere to go. You're trying to dig yourself out, and it's just messing with the whole thing. I don't even, sincerely, I've never been able to put words on how I feel when I have some of my moments. Basically, I was always sad. I was always getting angry at something or at someone who probably don't even deserve it. People out there, if I've been angry at y'all without knowing why I've been angry at y'all, I'm so sorry. I have no idea why I did that before. But yeah, it was everything that's going on in my head sometimes. But also mostly angry at myself. I'll be always angry at myself without knowing why, because I don't know my identity. So I don't know who I'm living. I'm living somebody else's life without actually knowing whose life I'm living. So everything is about faking it. Everything is about hiding myself, my real self, to try to please everybody. But you cannot live trying to please every single person on earth. You are losing yourself. You are losing your identity. You are losing your values and everything that you believe in. Your beliefs and your values are lost if you do not stay authentic, if you do not stay true to yourself. And that is the person that I was losing. I had already lost, and I didn't know how to come back to that person. Alright, so since I'm not able to actually define what depression is like, I'll just continue with the rest of the video. Whatever I said before, that is how I felt with depression, or that is at least the most that I can describe on how I felt right now. So let's continue. So at some point I realized that what I was feeling was not only physical, was not just physical symptoms. It was also mental, it was also emotional, and very importantly emotional. So I already knew that I had to lose weight, because I was starting to feel and see that, okay, this is really getting worse and worse every day. So I knew that I had to lose some weight. But I also knew the moment that I saw myself start faking certain moments, start faking being sick to avoid going to work, so start feeling just, okay, today I really cannot get out of bed. That's when I understood that some action needed to be taken. I really had to do something about it. I wasn't lazy. I wasn't weak. At least that's not how I would qualify that. But I just felt tired. I was all the time tired. And I had no connection with my inner self anymore. I sincerely wasn't feeling any connection with myself anymore. Obviously, like I told you a few times in this video already, I wasn't feeling myself anymore because I didn't know who I was. It was like I was living somebody else's life without knowing who that somebody else is. And I needed a way out, not just of the weight, but most importantly, of the cycle. So I was watching a YouTube video one day, and it was a fitness YouTube video. I don't know, it was just fun, and it was nice, and it was weightlifting, and it was working out in groups, and it was really a good YouTube video. I don't even remember which video it was, but I was watching that video and I was like, man, it's really time for me to start exercising again. And because at that moment, the way I was feeling, I couldn't really like wake up and start running or whatever. I was like, I needed to start moving somehow. I don't know how, but I needed to do it. So I decided to take some form of action. Whatever it is, I had to do something just to feel something, you know? So I decided to work on my body first. I don't know why I came up with that approach, but I felt like I needed to work on my body at that very moment. I did not want to do things the way I normally do them when I tried before to lose weight. I wanted something different. I wanted something long lasting, so I needed a system. I needed a long-term view and absolutely a lot of patience. Because I didn't want something that is not sustainable. I wanted something that could be a lifestyle. I knew that wherever I started, if I continued to put effort consistently, something will eventually happen. I didn't know what would happen, but something would definitely happen if I keep my promise to myself and if I continue putting this effort consistently. So I decided to take it step by step. You know, like James Clear says in his book Atomic Habits, you have to stack habits on top of each other, but you can't change all of them at the same time. You need, if you want something to be consistent, a habit to be consistent and long term, take the time to implement that habit. And once that habit is already stuck on you and you know it's already part of your lifestyle, then you can add a different habit. So that is the strategy that I took for this phase that I was starting. Not only this phase, but for this whole process, for this whole cycle that I'm about to talk to you about. That book, Atomic Habits, is one book that helped me a lot during this period. So step 1, weightlifting stage. This is the first step that I took. I did not want to change a lot of things at the same time because I knew I would have a hard time implementing them. I knew that at the level that I was at, I could not follow up with a lot of things at the same time and keep them consistent and make them a lifestyle. So I didn't want to put a lot of weight on myself by adding a lot of different, change this, change this, you gotta reduce your this and this and this. That was just too overwhelming for me. So I decided to take it one step at a time, one thing at a time, one habit at a time, starting with weightlifting. So I started weightlifting without changing any other aspect of my life. I would continue eating the same way. I would continue sleeping the same way. I didn't change anything else. The only thing I did was I decided I will go to the gym every single Monday, Wednesday and Friday after work. I will go straight to the gym, exercise, from the gym, go home, and I'm done for the day. So that was the first thing that I did. And to be honest with you, at first I didn't feel much, but the more I kept on doing it, the more it became a habit. The more, if I don't go to the gym, I was feeling like there was something missing in my life. The weight didn't change much, but I could feel a difference. I could see a little bit of a difference in terms of like, I could see that I was losing a little bit of fat, but that I was also putting on a lot of muscles. That I could see it and I could feel it. So there was definitely that thing that you could feel inside of you, despite the fact that the scale is not changing much yet. So that is one advice you guys have to keep in your head, that sometimes you don't necessarily see something on the scale, but it doesn't mean that the change is not happening in your body. You have to have the visuals. You have to see how are you feeling inside. So all of that were the indications that I had, knowing that I'm actually making a change. And even the best of all was my energy started changing. The more I would go to the gym, the more I felt a different energy inside of me. From time to time, I would not necessarily feel bad when I have to wake up to go to work. I would wake up well and go to work and just continue my life, come back home, blah blah blah. So this weightlifting stage took me, I took my time with it. I really was patient. I respected my time, and I was not rushing it because I knew that I wanted long-term results. So I didn't rush it. It took me, I might be criticized for that, but it took me months. I took months of only changing my weightlifting, my fitness habits. It took me like a few months, maybe like 3, 4, 5 months, where I was only doing that. Step 2, tracking stage. After spending a few months on the weightlifting step, I knew that it was already part of my habit. I knew that I was ready to do something to add a different habit to stack on top of that. So I decided to start tracking important data. And I didn't want to track everything because I knew I didn't have the discipline for it. So I decided what I'm going to track was just the essential, which means I wanted to track my food and I wanted to track my steps. Those are the two big things that I wanted to track during this period. 1 week. Only 1 week of tracking. Here's what I did. I bought a little kitchen scale for my food so that I can have an idea how much I'm actually eating without changing the quantity, and without putting to myself that, oh, now that I'm gonna track, I'm gonna try to adjust a little bit. No, I didn't do any of that. I just tracked what I was eating exactly the way it was. So I would track how many grams of rice I normally eat. I would pour rice the way I normally put it before cooking it, and then after that I would weigh it to see how much it is. And then, for example, I would just buy the normal food that I buy, and this time I would check the labels to see how many grams am I eating, and how much of protein is that, how much of carbs is that, and how much of fat was contained. But if I didn't have the macros, when I'm talking about macros, I'm talking about protein, I'm talking about carbs, I'm talking about fat. But even if I didn't have any idea about the macros, I would just track the grams. How many grams am I eating? How many grams of rice? How many grams of pasta? Because those were the two things I used to eat a lot. But other stuff as well, I would track that. And also, the other thing that I changed is I bought a very, very cheap smartwatch to track my steps, so that I can walk around with it, so that I can know how many steps I actually take every single day. And the results to this one was crazy. Was really, really amazing. The results that I would see on my smartwatch at the end of each single day was crazy. But I wasn't there to judge myself. This was more like an awareness period more than anything else. So after this period, we go to step 3. Step 3 was cutting stage. After analyzing the results of my little tracking stage, I realized that I had about like 25 to 28 kilograms to lose to just reach a certain target that I had for myself. So it was time for me to start the cutting phase. So this habit was consisting on reducing the amount of calories that I eat per day. Now I went to do a little research and see how many calories I can be eating during the day to see to be able to lose weight. Remember, in my tracking stage, I wasn't necessarily tracking all the protein grams and carbs and fat, but I was mostly tracking the how many grams of rice am I eating, how many grams of chicken am I eating, those kind of things. So now in this cutting phase, I would be more attentive. I would look at 100 grams of rice on the label, how many calories is that, so that I can adjust. I can know the total amount of calories that I'm actually consuming during the day. So in this moment now, I'm starting adjusting my calories intake to the target for weight loss. So I wasn't crazy about it in terms of like each set, when you become completely obsessed with tracking your calories. But I would do the maximum to avoid snacking a lot, because that was one of my worst habits. After work, I used to just come home and start snacking and watching TV and all. But Now that I have already added gym on my in my habits, I had less time to watch TV at night. I had less time to snack. So by adding the gym on top of this, and then start cutting my calories, this is the moment where I decided I didn't want to be buying snacks anymore. So if I needed to snack something, I literally had to leave my house, go to the store to buy snacks, and then come back and do that. And boy, I am not that type of person who enjoys being in the shopping mall all the time. I do not like going anywhere to shop. So that was a, I would say, like the easy part of my day, because yes, I would feel like snacking, but because I don't have those snacks at home, it was much easier for me to avoid snacking. If I had them at home, I'm that type of person who will bin the whole packet of chips and finish it in one go. I reduced my calories, reduced the amount of grams of rice, especially I reduced a lot the amount of rice and pasta that I used to eat, because those were I realized in my tracking period that those were my two biggest calorie intake besides the snacking. So I reduced that a lot. I did not want to follow a specific diet where you don't eat carbs at all or you don't eat fat at all. I wanted all macros in my diet, in my food, but I just couldn't keep it in the same quantities. I had to reduce the quantities. And it was a shock to see how much food we do eat actually without realizing how much food we're eating. I noticed that. It's crazy. It's very difficult to know it if you don't do the tracking period. And it's very easy to underestimate what you're eating because it's just visual. You have no idea actually how much it weighs, how much it is. But after doing that tracking, you start having that visual in a different way. You start seeing food in a different way. As long as I have enough protein, I have enough carbs, and I have enough fat, I can fill myself enough with very small quantities of food, but that are filling if you have enough protein in it. But those things, you don't realize them when you have never tried the tracking and observing how you're eating. Last stage, I was tracking my steps. So at this moment, what I wanted to do is to add walking on my habits. I really needed to add something because I was doing weightlifting, but I wasn't doing much of cardio. So, and I didn't want anything that was gonna have a lot of strain on me. So I decided to add walking to my habits. I had noticed during my tracking stage that I was barely walking 2,000, 3,000 to 5, maximum was 5,000. I wasn't even reaching 5,000 steps per day. It would be maximum maybe 4,000 steps per day. That is crazy. That is very, very sedentary. So I decided that I was going to start slowly adding the amount of steps that I'm doing per day, which started with at least reaching 5 steps per day, 5,000 steps per day, and then going to 8,000 steps per day, and then after rising it to 10,000 steps per day. I wanted to raise it to 12,000 steps per day, which I did at some point, but I wanted to leave it optional. I was like, if every day I did from 10 to 12,000 steps per day, I was happy. I was happy about myself. I was happy about what I did. So I started increasing those steps like that slowly. Every time I will be taking a phone call, I'll go around and walking and walking and walking. Every time I'll be, I was drinking a lot of water. I always like drinking a lot of water and coffee and tea and stuff. So I was drinking a lot of water, so I would go to the toilet often. Now on Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, I decided to take a walk. Instead of since Monday, Wednesday, and Friday I was going to the gym, Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday I decided to take walks after work. So I decided to add that walk, a little walk, to make sure that I always hit my 10,000 steps per day. So I started hitting them, and the more consistently I started hitting them, I started seeing how big of a difference this made. I frankly attribute a lot of my fat loss, I repeat, fat loss, to walking. I sincerely saw all the fat get melted from my body just like this. Yes, it was. It took time for someone who's impatient, but once I started walking, all of the extra fats that I had started get shredded, get started melting. It started melting, and because I started with bodybuilding, not bodybuilding per se, but because I started with muscle building, every muscle was visible now. So the efforts that I had put in before were all completely visible. I was so happy about my results, as my whole mood had changed. I was laughing more, I was smiling more, I was interacting more with people. It became, my lifestyle had completely, not completely, but had changed a lot once I added all these habits on top of each other. There was still one more habit I needed to add though. This is step 4, sleeping stage. Sleeping stage, guys. And this, I know it sounds weird, but my sleeping obviously was bad. Used to sleep late. I would wake up late because I'm like, and always out of energy, like you know. But when I arrived to this level, I decided to start going to bed every single night at the same hour. It was 9 p.m. for me. Same time every single night I would go to bed, and every single morning I would wake up at the same time. That was 4 a.m. I mean, some people found it too extra, but for me, I'm very much of a morning person. So I would go to bed every single night at 9 p.m. and go and wake up at 4 a.m. So this was for me to build a habit as well of optimizing the times where I am the most productive, to do something out of myself, to read a little bit, to sit down and be with myself when nobody else is there yet, when no noise is there. And also, when you think about it, that sleep helped me a lot in my physical goals, in my weight loss goals, because when you're sleeping enough, you're giving the time to your muscles to rest. You're giving the time to the muscles to recompose after you torture them during gym. I'm saying torture them, but yeah, you understand what I mean. When you're lifting weights, you're pretty much destroying and tearing your muscle, not destroying, tearing your muscles a little bit. So they have to have that time to fix themselves, to recuperate, to rest, all of that. So that happens during sleep, and that's why sleep is extremely important when you're trying to build muscles and when you're trying to lose weight. Do not neglect this last step. Do not neglect this one. Is a very, very important one. So my energy literally changed. I was waking up in the morning, I had energy, I had a smile on my face, I would get ready. Yeah, you still have bad days. Obviously I would still have bad days, but the bad days became less and less important. I had less and less bad days compared to before. I had a lot of smile. I started going back out with my friends sometimes, from time to time, not too much, but from time to time. So a lot of things have already changed for me. Okay, that was a long part to talk about, but anyways, the steps that I took to change my body did not only help me change my appearance, they also helped me start feeling and thinking differently. First, I had way more energy. Sincerely, I had way more energy to do things, to go out, to talk to my friends, to network a little bit. With depression, I didn't get a chance to do that. With depression, you don't feel like going anywhere. You don't feel like talking to anybody. But that had started to change. I was feeling much better. I was smiling more. I was talking to people more. And I was pretty much becoming a little more social. I was waking up with energy, ready to go to work. Second, it taught me patience and long-term thinking. This whole process took me a year. And yes, a lot of people might criticize me losing 20 kilos in a year. That's nothing. Yes, it's maybe nothing, but my objective was to lose it forever. To lose it and not put it on back. My objective was to stay consistent. My objective was to build a lifestyle that I could actually follow up on. So this long-term thinking was a big thing for me, and patience, because I'm not a very patient person. So this is something that I learned from this journey. I knew that I could lose 20 kilos in less than a year. Obviously, I knew that I could do it. Like we see on TV, like we see people doing in these programs and stuff. It's possible to do that. But because I wanted something long term, because I wanted something that is permanent, I did not want to take the same approach. Because I always see people losing weight so fast, but then put it on back as way faster than they lost it. Actually, way faster than they lost it. So I didn't want to live like that. I didn't want to do that. I wanted something long term. So my approach had to be different. And because I wanted something different, I understood that in life there are no shortcuts. There are no shortcuts, because when you're trying to achieve something sustainable, if you try to take a shortcut, at some point reality will catch up with you, and you might have to go back to the beginning and restart the whole process, which we've been done for so long. When trying to lose weight, you get in this cycle, you get this diet, you do the diet, you lose the weight, you put on back the weight, you get another diet, you lose the weight, you put on back the weight. That was not something that I wanted to do. So with this new approach, I understood that no shortcuts are there. So it's better just to take the long way that will actually work, that will actually be sustainable, because it will become a part of you. It will become a part of you. You're not trying to cut bridges. You're not trying to do anything. You are building yourself. So that's what I did. And in life, things take longer than expected, a lot of time. And that is something that can be applied in every single aspect of your life.